Hey blues fans, glad you made it. Welcome to another episode of This Week in the Blues. It's our weekly take on blues history. I'm your host, Jimbo Big Train Madsen, with the blues band, Big Train and the Locomotives. Now I know some of you have been asking about this and paying attention and keeping track. And so this week's episode is brought to you by Oh Look Adair. Oh look Adair. Oh look Adair. Anyway, let's take a look and see what happened this week in blues history.
Louisiana native and Cajun blues guitar maestro Tab Benoit was born November 17th in 1967. A guitar player since his teenage years, Benoit appeared at the Blues Box, a club and cultural center in Baton Rouge, run by guitarist Tabby Thomas. Playing guitar alongside Thomas, Raffle Neal, Henry Gray, and other high-profile regulars at the club, Benoit learned the blues firsthand from a faculty of living blues legends. Blues singer and guitarist L.F. Jack Owens was born November 17, 1904 in Bentonia, Mississippi. When he was a child, Owens learned to play the fife, fiddle, and piano, but his chosen instrument was the guitar. Now, Owens did not really seek to become a professional recording artist. He farmed, he sold bootleg liquor, and he ran a weekend juke joint for most of his life. Owens' first record album was Goin' Up the Country in 1966. Guitarist, singer, record producer, and songwriter Mike Zito was born November 19, 1970 in St. Louis. He got his start in music by singing at local events at a young age, and as a teenager, he picked up the guitar and began playing regularly around his hometown. In 2008, he signed with Electro Groove Records and had his first release titled Today. The following year, he released Pearl River, and Zito was awarded Song of the Year at the 2010 Blues Music Awards for the title track off that album. He continues to tour and record today, so if you get a chance to go out and catch him live, don't miss it. Blues guitar player Chris Kane was born November 19th in 1955. Now, Kane was something of a late bloomer, and he didn't record his first album until he was past 30 and released a breakthrough comeback effort when he was in his early 60s. But if it took the public a while to catch on to his music, he'd long had the respect of his peers, with hotshot guitarist Joe Bonamassa citing him as one of his favorite players. As a guitarist, Kane's style shows the influence of B.B. King and Albert King, both of whom were friends and mentors. Duane Allman, the blues and rock guitarist, session musician, and of course, founder and original leader of the Allman Brothers Band, was born November 20th in 1946. Allman went from musical unknown to one of rock's most revered guitar virtuosos, only to die a legend, all in about 24 months. He barely had time to establish his legacy, much less his name. Allman is best remembered for his brief but influential tenure in the band, and in particular for his expressive slide guitar playing and inventive improvisational skills. He died following a motorcycle accident on October 29th in 1971 at the age of 24. The Voodoo Man himself, New Orleans' own Dr. John, was born November 20th in 1941. Malcolm John Rebenack Jr. became Dr. John on stage and took the sounds and traditions of New Orleans blues, jazz, and R&B and twisted them into new forms. As time went by, he would later become one of the strongest proponents of the Crescent City's musical heritage, celebrating the songs and artists that made the city great. Rhythm and blues pianist and bandleader Lloyd Glenn was born November 21st in 1909. Now, he was a pioneer of the West Coast blues style. He was born in San Antonio, Texas, and Glenn played with various jazz bands in the Dallas and San Antonio area. He moved to California in 1941, joining the Walter Johnson Trio in 1944 and finding employment as a session musician and arranger. Now, he accompanied T-Bone Walker on his 1947 hit, Call It Stormy Monday, and later the same year made his own first solo records, billed as Lloyd Glenn and his Joymakers. Happy birthday to the King Biscuit Time blues radio show that first aired on November 21st, 1941. It's still the longest-running daily American radio broadcast in history. The program is broadcast each weekday from the Delta Cultural Center on KFFA in Helena, Arkansas. Now join me and tune into the program every day at 12:15. And you can reach it online, and they stream the show straight from the studio on Facebook. Now the link to the Facebook page is in the show notes, so be sure to check it out. On November 22nd in 1982, Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble started recording their debut album, Texas Flood, which was released on June 13th in 1983 by Epic Records. The album was named after a cover featured on the album, Texas Flood, which was first recorded by blues singer Larry Davis in 1958. Texas Flood was recorded in the space of 3 days at Jackson Browne's personal recording studio in Los Angeles. Vaughan wrote 6 of the album's 10 tracks. Blues pianist, singer, and whistler, Whistlin' Alex Moore, was born November 22nd in 1899 in Dallas, Texas. He is first remembered for his recording of Across the Atlantic Ocean and Black-Eyed Peas and Hog Jowls. Although his family did not own a piano, a young Moore learned the instrument by watching others. Amazing. In 1915, he performed on the Dallas radio station WWR, and he continued to play for tips at various social gatherings in places like juke joints in Dallas. Blues legend R.L. Burnside was born November 23rd in 1926. When I was helping him with sound at one of his shows up in Iowa, he once asked me, "So what's the food in jail like here?" True story. Burnside made his home in Holly Springs, Mississippi in the hill country above the Delta. He learned his music from his neighbor, Mississippi Fred McDowell. Up until the mid-'80s, Burnside was primarily a farmer and a fisherman, and it wasn't until the 1990s that he really began recording and touring. His music was a kind of raw, unadulterated blues with a bare-bones electric guitar. On November 23rd in 1936, room 414 of the Gunter Hotel in San Antonio was the scene of a historic recording session by blues artist Robert Johnson. In the following 3-day session, Johnson played 16 selections and recorded alternate takes for most of them. Among the songs Johnson recorded were I Believe I'll Dust My Broom, Sweet Home Chicago, and Crossroads Blues, which all became blues standards. Well, blues fans, we just covered some of the highlights here. Now, if you want to know more about these artists or other things that happened this week in the blues, and really, why wouldn't you? To do so, just follow our social media pages or visit our website at bigtrainblues.com. Now, we'll have a brand new episode next week, so we'll see you then.